Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stewart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and still trying to get Larry on the phone, which may or may not work. We're being blocked one way or another, and I don't know how we can stop it. But anyway, while we're waiting, just remember that all this gun control rhetoric, they're coming in the back door with this red list, warning list, code list, whatever you want to call it. And, of course, it won't stop there. First, it'll be mentally ill or trouble posts, but it'll soon escalate to other areas of just like the communists do. It'll soon become political. That if you are against a new world order, you're mentally ill, exactly as the communists did over in the Soviet Union. And on it will go, and it's just a backdoor approach to gun confiscation, and that's what they want. They want total gun confiscation. And it's just too bad that American people aren't going to know what's happening, and they will give up their guns, I think. I don't know about the rural districts, but certainly in the cities. Larry, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Takes a long time for that to dial you up, but I'm afraid to start it before we go on air. I'm afraid they'll just bounce it off. So, anyway, where would you like to start tonight? I'm not feeling all that well. I got food poisoning, I think, last night, really bad. Well-known chain restaurant, too, and had a salad, but I think the salad was tainted. Anyway, what's cooking?
Well, I was going to mention the Drudge Report headlines today. Putin covering up nuclear disaster, ? Missile test gone wrong, another explosion. Russians rush to buy protective iodine after Russian explosion. Possible ammo dump explosion, Russia's Far East, evacuations underway. And after you get all of that, I forwarded you, I believe, a video that Trumpet News put out. They said that the explosion in Russia looked like a nuke, looked closely like a nuke. I sent that to you, and by the way, most of American media is just avoiding it like the plague, but Lou Dobbs on Fox Business tonight asked General Jack Keane about that explosion, and you could see in the general's face that he wished that hadn't been asked of him. So it must be a really secret thing, except Lou Dobbs did report that when this explosion went off, it spiked radiation monitors all around the world. What do you think?
Yeah, that would have had to been either kind of a suitcase nuke or maybe a nuke explosion that they didn't count on. Do you suppose it had something to do with missile tests, like the headline says, that it went wrong and ignited or triggered the nuke? Wow. Of course, Putin's not going to mention it, but that's kind of interesting that Lou Dobbs asking a question that the general doesn't really want to have to answer shows you folks that Fox News, like all the others, is rapidly becoming just an instrument of the state. And the only thing you're going to have left when this comes down to it is the Bible, and that's why they'll take that away too if they can. We'll have Bible burnings here in the not very distant future. But the Russians rush to buy iodine after blast causes radiation spike. Every American ought to buy this protective iodine. You can get it at Amazon.com. They do carry it, and it's for radiation. It's for your thyroid, basically. And when you're involved in a nuclear fallout situation or nukes go off relatively close to you, start taking that stuff immediately because it protects your thyroid from radiation damage. Wow. Kind of interesting that they don't want to talk about it, isn't it, Larry?
Well, it actually is, Stewart. And another one from Fox News that's about to bite the dust, it appears, is Tucker Carlson. And I know you liked listening to him, except that when he called out the hoax against Trump, the left just about now, Fox actually took him off his channel for now, his show, and the left is just about brought down all of his supporters as far as the ads and such with the program. So, yeah, you say the window's closing, and it looks more and more like it's closing. And I'll just say, after you mentioned that iodine and told people to have a little bit of that protective iodine, the Russians maybe are smarter than America. I don't hear anybody in America gathering up iodine, but I hunted mine up out of a box after I moved because I lost it during my move and couldn't remember what box I stuck it in. But I did find it, but they had a report today, which is really interesting. It says that they're having like 10,000 in the streets protest in Kashmir, and the Indian military and security forces are trying to put that down, while the Prime Minister of Pakistan is talking about, nuclear war. And at the same time, at the very same time, Pakistan just expelled the Indian ambassador. Now, you know as well as I do in history, Stewart, whenever you expel an ambassador, you're about to go to war. And so I would tell people that, Hal Turner put a list of notables up the other day and said that if there's some nukes go off now he didn't talk about the Russian nuke, but he said if some nukes go off in the Pakistan, Kashmir, India region, that he said it'd be 5 to 7 days before probably the radioactivity hit the West Coast, and within 10 days it would cover the whole U.S. So people need to have that in the back of their mind. I'm not sure, Stewart, that the American people are really Boy Scout ready. What do you think?
No, they're not. Not even a question. Unfortunately, even the remnant, it's so small now, the remnant of the church, let alone what's going on in the secular world. I mean, you do have your preppers, and thank the Lord for them that are trying to warn people, you better get ready. However, at the end of it, it really doesn't matter. You're either in the Lord and you're going to be protected by the Lord, or you're not. And so best one is protected by the Lord, because they can come take all your food, and probably will if they get wind of it. And I don't know, Larry, we're right at the verge of a topple. And I got a couple of headlines here I wanted to talk about. Above normal, this is switching subject, above normal hurricane season, now more likely with El Niño's in, NOAA says. Predicts 5 to 9 hurricanes this season, 2 or 4 of them at the level category 3 or higher. Folks, if you're living along the coastal regions, you better get ready for not only just normal hurricanes, but far above normal strength hurricanes. The weather is erratic. Everything is going helter-skelter, off-kilter. Storms are much more violent than they ever were. And they had hailstones the size of pretty much, I guess, baseball, and grapefruit-size hail right up here in Minnesota. Did a lot of damage. This is going to become the normal. When I was a pilot, I remember we could fly over most squall lines at 25,000, 28,000 feet, but it wasn't very long before you couldn't fly over them because they were going up to 48,000, 50,000 feet. You'd have to find what we call the saddleback and fly, and you might have to fly 200-300 miles to find one of those so you could get on the other side of it. Things are really rapidly changing. So anyway, here's another one, Larry. What's your comment on this one? Pentagon upgrades Voice of God tech. New laser can make people hear voice commands at a far distance. Now, they did this over in Iraq, which is why they captured those people. They thought it was Allah telling them to lower their weapons. It says here the Pentagon is working on a weapon that uses lasers and plasma to transmit sound files, even human speech, directly to individual people at great distances. That's according to a story by the Military Times newspaper, which reports the military researchers are working on ways to use laser and plasma to control crowds. Boy, are they ever getting ready so that when the New World Order gets here, which is probably already here basically, they'll be able to control, there will be no opposition. As Jesus said, who can make war with the beast? What do you think about that?
Well, that reminds me of a back door of the event that Serge Monast in Canada before his death was warning about a little bit.
Yes, you're right. Yep. And a fake arrival and a voice that would tell them. Each tribe would have their own religious leader coming down from the heavens, and then at the end of it, it would all merge into all the religions are basically the same, and all religions lead to the one Messiah. And we're hearing that rhetoric now build rapidly in religious circles, that all religions in the world are all searching for the Lord. And unfortunately, that's not true at all. And but you can't convince people of something like that. What else you got, Larry? I'm not doing that well tonight, so.
Oh, I know. I hate that for you. I wanted to run this by you real quick. This is a report from Hal Turner, who said that he received information. NASA scientists report climate change and global warming are caused by the change in the Earth's solar orbit and axis tilt, not from man-made causes. He says this has been known to NASA since 1958, but they keep it quiet and allow the New World Order lie to propagate.
Well, the Inuit told us all about that, didn't they? Long ago, when they said that the things had changed up there, and they navigate by the stars, and they navigate by the sun and the moon. And, here it is, NASA. Climate change and global warming caused by changes in Earth's solar orbit. Now, that's kind of an interesting thing. So would this be in the tilt is why people are seeing sunlight where they never saw it before coming into their houses, particularly housewives who, they know what window to put their plants in and et cetera, et cetera. And now all of a sudden they're saying, well, it's a little bit different. And, of course, the Bible in Isaiah chapter 24 talks about a wobble of the earth. Just before it tips over, it starts to wobble like a top running down. It kind of does a little flip back and forth, and then all of a sudden it just topples over. Wow. That's kind of unusual, though, for NASA to talk about that because they've been maintaining right along it's people that are doing all this.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Some of this is leaking out a little, and I think you're exactly right, Stewart. The article seems to indicate that when the tilt of the Earth moves back or forth to another direction, it tilts the Earth to where it changes a little bit of the solar orbit, and thereby, I'm sure that would mean that the sun and the moon are a little bit in the wrong windows if you've been watching. I think you're right.
Yeah, this is what the Inuit were saying, that they were having trouble navigating because the sun and the moon and the stars were different. And they, of course, up there in the flat tundra, they don't have landmarks to go by. So when they're traveling, they have to use kind of like a ship on the ocean, Pentagon upgrades voice of God. I already talked about that one. I want to go on another one. FBI surveillance proposal sets up clash with Facebook. Agency solicits vendor proposals to collect data from Facebook, other social media, to head off safety threats. Boy, if this is not a back door, well, you might be a Republican, and of course we're not Republicans. So therefore, we need to really come and get your guns because you might do something. What do you think about this? To me, this is a backdoor approach.
Well, I've been suspicious, if you will, since Facebook and Twitter and Google and all of them began gathering all the massive data on all the Americans in this country, because who would have thought that the intel agencies wouldn't come for that? Are you kidding me? I mean, when they spy on a president coming to the office, you think they won't spy on Everyday Joe?
Well, of course they will, yeah. And they're laying the groundwork for this massive manhunt, if you want to. I'd rather call it a gun hunt. But I'm kind of like John Moore used to say, I don't know if he still does, that really when they're coming for the guns, they aren't coming for the guns. They're coming to shoot you because if you're dead, you can't use your gun. They don't really care about the guns. They care about killing the people that have them. And we are watching the rhetoric really build here. I've got a question for you as a police officer. Is not throwing water on a police officer an assault, and would that not be a felony and cause of immediate arrest? What's going on? Is that not an assault?
Well, Stewart, if somebody spits on an officer in the officer's face, that's assault. He can arrest them. So what's the difference with water? And I just heard a commentator yesterday bring up a very good point. Why would the police bow their heads and be waited to be doused when they don't know whether it's water in that container that's going to be thrown on them, or lye water, or acid, bleach? They have no clue. This is stupidity, Stewart.
Well, why would they not be responding, I guess is really what I'm driving at. Who
stand down?
Not to respond. Who told them to stand down?
Stand down. We all know who's told them. I mean, it doesn't take an American with any brain power at all to realize what's going on. They're following orders. And you know, it extends, and most of the orders are political. The police don't have the, you know, when I was there, I had instances where I was told by, well, let's say I work for a sheriff, okay? And my wife knows this is true because she was working there. And anyway, I went to arrest with a warrant someone he knew and his family, and they called before I could get in the house on them, and had him on the phone when I walked in there. So I picked up the phone, and he said, "Do not arrest her." I said, "See you in a few minutes." I loaded her butt up in my patrol car, and I hauled her butt to the county jail and booked her into the jail, and he left and went home, didn't want to talk to me no more.
I love it.
Now, you either have some sand, if you either have sand in your butt and you do your job, or you can just forget it and go home. That's the way I look at it, but that's why sometimes I lost jobs. But it didn't matter.
Well, yeah, this is deliberate lawlessness, and this is all part of biblical prophecy that Babylon would be totally lawless at the end of it. And, of course, this is all part probably of the communist agenda that infiltrated most of the police departments, particularly in the big cities, tying their hands so they can't do anything. But I can imagine, what do you think Dirty Harry would have done about something like that?
He'd have done his job, is what I think. You know, Stewart, it's so interesting that it's almost like law enforcement today has the hive mentality. They do what they're told. They don't do what's right. They don't know righteousness from unrighteousness. They just do what they're told. And, you know, you remember an FBI agent told me all of this change was coming, and I wouldn't like it.
Yes.
And I don't.
Yeah, you did tell me that. That was a long time ago when he told you that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an email we got. I'm not going to give the guy's name, but I want to read this. I live in Southern California and Mexico. I've been living at the beaches for the last 2 months near Puerto Vallarta. I have worn 2 silver bracelets on my wrists for the last 4 years. A couple of days ago, I was swimming in the beach, which is already warm, but extremely hot water passed by me. Also, for several days, I was hearing a boiling sound when I had my head under water. When the water was calm, the boiling noise continued. With waves, the boiling noise continued. I was in calm water for no more than 10 minutes when my silver bracelets both became tarnished to a deep maroon color. I could hear the boiling noise. I believe sulfur of some origin made this chemical reaction. What would be your comment about that? That would be a huge danger signal for California. This is in California.
Well, I'd have to say, Stewart, that magma is very close to the surface or leaking a little bit there.
Yeah, wow. Folks, don't forget we're coming up on the 9th of Av. Hopefully the Lord will be nice to planet Earth and nothing will happen, but we do know something's going to happen sooner or later. And I don't know, Larry, whether people are going to get more and more nonchalant about all this, probably, rather than get ready, so to speak. I hear some of these prophecies, well, the people aren't ready. Well, the last time I read the scriptures, I don't think the Lord would care if you're ready or not. When the time is up, the time is up. You know, it's kind of like ready or not, here I come. What do you think?
Well, my feelings on this, and I'm a little strange, I think Creator is using his schedule on this, not man's.
Exactly. And when that second hand reaches midnight hour, then we're whole new ball game. Kamala Harris promises to remove the Second Amendment. Didn't take long for Democrats and their allies in the mainstream media to exploit the two tragic shootings. Now, these people have sworn, taken an oath, to uphold the Constitution of the United States, which includes, of course, the Second Amendment. Here they are, basically, Biden and the rest of them, openly saying that they are not going to swear an allegiance to the Constitution at all. Are we that close to a takeover? I mean, not that they have ever been paying much attention to the to the Constitution at all, but it just seems weird now. They don't seem to care one way or the other. And here's another one. Fired CNN host, so-called scholar of religions, Reza Aslan, who ate human brains with cannibals, endorsed the ratification of Trump supporters in a Sunday tweet. And that goes along with this new movie that's coming out. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Hal Turner posted that, and Fox Business has really been on it today. Hal Turner says violent movie, The Hunt, as the blue state elite hunt red state deplorables for sport. And this movie comes out September the 7th, and basically what some of the more conservative individuals on Fox Business have been warning, they're saying this is a clue. This is not just a movie, this is a clue.
Yep.
That the left and the rhinos and the deep state and they're all giving a nod to people like Antifa to go after the Trump supporters. This is going to get out of hand and get out of hand quick, Stewart. And I've often been wondered. Matter of fact, another post came out said twisted leftist Reza Aslan, which you just read. Previously with CNN, endorses the eradication of Trump supporters. So I'm a Trump supporter because I think it's linked to Cyrus, and I'd like, before the show's over, I want to give you something going on in the Middle East too. But this is a real threat, Stewart.
That's what I think. It's a nod of the head. Go get them. It's a revolution nod. Is what it is. It's to start a revolution, a hot revolution. which it has to go to anyway. Go ahead with your news on Israel and whatever.
Yeah, a very interesting report came out of Skywatch. Yeah, Skywatch TV with Tom Horn, and it says President Donald Trump dispatches secret emissaries to the Israeli most top influential rabbi with the questions, number one, is Messiah ready, and is it time for the third temple? So when I referred a minute ago to Trump being Cyrus, we got to remember that there was a pivot, kind of a pivot away from America, Babylon, if you will, like Richard Coombs used to say when he wrote his book that everybody hated, and whatever you wrote, they hated it too. But we pivoted away. We're pivoting towards this situation in the Middle East, you know, and people really are not paying any attention at all.
Yeah, well, I think that's what Trump is here for. I think he is kind of a Cyrus, and like Cyrus gave the nod, go ahead, build your temple. But if he sent emissaries over to talk to the chief rabbis over there, we got to be awful close. He must himself think the time is now. And so it wouldn't surprise me, folks, if we see the nod given, but I think we may have a war first. I think something's got to happen. I can feel it in the air. We're on the precipice of something, and like the 9th of Av, who knows? Maybe nothing occurs, or maybe it's going to be a spiritual event that only those with spiritual eyes and ears will notice, or it may be something really, really nasty. Who knows? And here we are with this movie, The Hunt, openly calling for the eradication, basically, of Christians and far-righters, those who supported Donald Trump, actually those who support the Constitution of the United States and want to return to it. So here we are. And with all the lies going on, I noticed Hal Turner posted this one, 90% of all U.S. mass shootings perpetrated by Democrats. So it's not white supremacists. What else you got? Anything, last word here?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and the next show we'll talk about it. Barry Rothman just did a new Torah code, the link between video games and mass shootings, and it's really telling, and we'll go into it the next show.
Yeah, they're programming the human mind, and they're programming the kids for violence, and that's why all the movies are so violent now. They're getting everybody ready for mass killings and butchering and all of that. It's too bad we've gone down this road, but hey, folks, we're in the Matrix. Your whole object is to get out of the Matrix. All the news within the Matrix is diversionary, and although interesting to know about, you have to get out of the Matrix, and you don't have any options, because if you don't, you remain in it. Even after you die, you remain in it. The book Frequency and my new one, Mind, about the mind veil and everything that's going on, is we're getting good reviews on it. So, folks, you might want to take a look at it. Anyway, any last word, Larry?
Well, I would just tell people to keep an eye out even this weekend. I think that it's very interesting, the time frame you set. We're going right into it, and people need to watch the next week or so.
Yeah, this can get really, really, how do I say, interesting. So, folks, it's a heads up, and a lot of things can happen very quickly. In fact, actually, they do. You just turn on the TV set and there was another mass killing here or another mass killing there. So it does happen almost instantly. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. Take care of yourselves, prepare yourselves, and we'll see you next week, the Lord willing. And thanks a lot, Larry, for coming on. Appreciate it. Good night, everyone.